I'm a voter in the AP Top 25. Every week, I get a tweet from Oregon fans. There's one in Durham. Now I'm joined by an Oregon grad and an Oregon fan in the studio, Paul Ihander. Just so happens to be my new boss. Paul, welcome to the Triangle.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Welcome to the OG.
Even better.
I mean,
right? What a great place to make a debut.
All right, so am I a hater?
Sure.
I have the Ducks.
Yep, just say yes.
I have the Ducks at number 9 in my AP poll this week. When you look at the college football playoff rankings, they're number 6. So I ask you, do I suffer from East Coast bias?
At 9?
Yes.
No, not necessarily.
Okay. I do have them in front of USC and UCLA.
That's a good place for them to be.
Okay.
That's you're spot on right there, based on the win that Chip Kelly couldn't get against the Ducks a couple of weeks ago. They don't play USC this year because of just how the Pac-12 revolving door of scheduling goes. Oregon's toughest tests come this weekend against Washington, who came back and beat Oregon State last week. Late in that one. That one ended like at 2 a.m. Eastern time, which was terrible.
I have Washington ranked.
You're okay with that one. That's been quite the story up there. Michael Penix is an amazing. Penix is a heck of a quarterback.
Apparently, the Pac-12 is the portal champions of the world, man.
We love the portal.
Bill Walton likes to call it the Conference of Champions. Maybe they're the portal champions.
Well, they still call it the Conference of Champions. We're just losing 2 of them in a couple of years here to a defection. We'll just call it a defection. Washington coming up, Utah coming up, Oregon State at the end of the year been ranked, unranked, Utah, that same kind of deal. So the toughest stretch for the Ducks comes right here at the end of the season. But they need to win games. I mean, first of all, they have to win out. We know this.
Yeah.
But if you see on your betting apps, for those of you who live in legal betting states who are listening to us, Virginia, if you see an over-under on this thing, anywhere under 60, pound that over. And if it's an Oregon number under 40, pound that over. They have yet to score under 40 points, with the exception of the debacle at the start of the season, of which I was in attendance at, against the Georgia Bulldogs, who now really look unstoppable after throttling Tennessee last week.
Okay, and I think that's where my hesitation with Oregon comes from.
Is that the Georgia game, really?
Yes.
That's where it comes from? Stop it. We've seen SEC.
So you were there, but you were there.
I was there. And
what did you think?
The best part about that game was the tailgating for me. It was brutal. Oh, that was ugly. It's funny because that was the game that even all Oregon fans listening, Pac-12 fans, and Auburn, like, Bo Nix haters were like,
yeah.
Bo Nix? Oh, man, we're so glad he transferred. He's there. He's now Oregon's problem. They're starting him at quarterback. They got nobody left. Oregon's going to just go into the dregs.
Speaking of East Coast bias, maybe this is North Carolina bias. We've heard some people advocate for Drake May, North Carolina's quarterback, to be in the Heisman conversation.
I like Drake May, by the way. I wasn't a believer early. I saw him play against Coastal, not Coastal, but Georgia State several weeks ago, and I was like, I get it, but I don't get it.
Do you think Bo Nix should be in the Heisman conversation?
He has to be. He has to be. The offensive output, based on what you see across this country. Name 7 other offensive players who have made that kind of an impact on their team. And then look at the defensive side. It's rare, again, defensive winning a Heisman Trophy. But you start going through the same names of lists over and over. C.J. Stroud, Hendon Hooker, Stetson Bennett at Georgia, who...
Oh, no, we're not putting Stetson Bennett in there,
right,
are we?
But no, I don't think so. But you're looking at the same kind of class of names.
Yeah.
Nix, if there was a comeback player of the year Heisman,
no doubt,
it's his to go. But based on his offensive numbers, the fact that he's really pushing that team in terms of rushing as well, they're 8-1.
Would you love to see and Paul Ihander is my new boss. He's joining us here. He's an Oregon fan. We're trying to discern if I have an East Coast bias. I probably do. I'm not going to lie to you. But I do have a question for you, and I love what the Pac-12 did this year. They are still technically in divisions, but the 2 best teams will meet for the Pac-12 championship. So as you said, Oregon does not have USC on their schedule.
They do not.
But if USC wins out and Oregon wins out, we're going to see the Ducks and the Trojans. If that team shows up with 1 loss on Selection Sunday, I don't care what anything else happens. Do you think the Pac-12 champion under that circumstance belongs in the college football playoff?
With 1 loss at that point, if TCU doesn't get past Texas, yes.
Okay.
But I'm a believer in the undefeateds right now.
Oh, no.
So that's what it is. But you still have Ohio State, Michigan, and they still have to square off. So someone's going to get in eventually.
Paul, I was having a nice calm day.
I know you're having a nice calm day.
And now you want to tell me that the unbeatens belong in front of the one-loss teams.
Yes.
You think Michigan is better than Tennessee? For real?
Today?
Yes.
If they beat Ohio State, yes.
Well, they haven't played Ohio State.
But when they do that,
that's different.
if they run Ohio State out of the building, yes.
Which they did last year.
Right.
But
and they could do again this year.
You're saying right now, if you're on the selection committee, you would have Michigan, who has played absolutely no one, ahead of Tennessee.
It's not their fault.
Who has Roadhouse. Oh,
it's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault. That's just how it sets up.
They bought
That's
out the UCLA non-conference game and replaced them with Hawaii.
Sure.
So whose fault is that?
And Georgia does that every year. Alabama does that every year. I mean, look at their non-conference schedule. I think Georgia played Ball State this year. Alabama may have played
Georgia played your Ducks this year.
They did, but that was game one. We've seen more than enough stories within college football over the past decade where a team in game one or game two loses a game, but ends up in the conversation at the end of the year. That's what's happening with Oregon this year. But again, you see Oregon's got to run the table. 11-1 at the end of the season. Most Ducks would still take, most Duck fans, and I'm a college football fan, but as a Duck and an alum and someone who pays money to that school to endow scholarships, small ones, by the way, not big ones, but small ones, they deserve to be in that conversation.
We're going to have to talk more about strength of schedule, and just because you beat crappy teams, you're ahead of a team like Tennessee that roadhoused LSU and beat Alabama.
Sure, but then got rolled at Georgia.
They did. But not as bad as 49-3.
Yeah, in the opening game of the season. Under a brand new head coach.
Does it not count because it was the opener?
The opener is distant memory. It's what have you done for me lately? That is the college football way.
You clearly, but we got to go here in a second, but you clearly follow college football.
Love college football.
The expansion to 12 teams, wouldn't that just expand the umbrella to include more West Coast fans?
It gives us a lot more to talk about, that's for sure.